This is the K-Cup, episode 8. Let's see. K-Cup, episode 8, take 1, action. And here we go. Welcome back to the K-Cup. I'm Joe Nortrup, your host. I'm here with Jon Kelly, the CEO and founder of Kelly Construction Group. We got a great show for you today. And man, episode Ocho.
We gotta redo that, man. That little weak bump. I mean, we like. I wasn't expecting it. We was like, I gave you like,
took you by shock.
I basically missed you.
I thought you were gonna snail me. That's why I kind of moved my hand up. Yeah. All right, you want to start over?
Snail you. Yeah.
All right, here we go. All right, so K-Cup, episode 8, take 3, and action. Welcome back to the K-Cup, episode 8. Man, can you believe it?
Let's do
episode 8, here we are. Did I miss your fist again?
No,
you
connected it that time.
I didn't feel good.
I mean, you did it like an 80-year-old man, but yeah.
Okay, we're going to have to do this one more time.
One more time.
I'm really screwing up here. So, episode 8. Okay.
Welcome to today's show.
All right. Here we go. All right. The K-Cup, episode 8, take 5. Action. Welcome back to the K-Cup. I'm Joe Nortrup, your host. I screwed that up. Hold on. Here we go again. The K-Cup, episode 8, take 6. Action. Welcome back to the K-Cup, episode 8. If you can believe it, we're glad you're here. I'm Joe Nortrup, your host. I'm here with Jon Kelly, the CEO and founder of the Kelly. Yeah, screwed up. You hate it when I say it, the Kelly Construction Group. All right, here we go. One more time. This is the take. This is the one for the money. Money shot. All right. All right, here we go. So the K-Cup, episode 8, take 10, action. Welcome back to the K-Cup. This is episode 8. I'm your host, Joe Nortrup. I'm here with the CEO and founder. Your eyes are closed. You look like you're sleeping, like you're looking at me.
No, they weren't closed.
I think the CEO and founder, Jon Kelly, was sleeping on the job, so we're going to have to probably take a short siesta, and we'll return after these messages.
Cut.
All right, here we go. This one's for the money. Money shot. I don't even know what we're talking about today, but here we go. All right, here we go. The K-Cup, episode 8, take 15. Action. Ow, that hurt. All right. Welcome back to the K-Cup. I'm Joe Nortrup, your host. I'm here with CEO and founder Jon Kelly. And this is episode 8 of the K-Cup. Can you believe it? Episode 8, man. We keep rolling them out. That's awesome.
Let's go.
So today we're talking about an interesting subject. We're talking about, man, totally blew it, dude.
We got 8 minutes to cut out this video.
Here we go. All right.
Let's go.
K-Cup, episode 8, take 20, action. Welcome back to the K-Cup. I'm your host, Joe Nortrup, and I'm here with the CEO and founder, Jon Kelly. Welcome back, Jon. Episode 8, if you can believe it. That's awesome. We're on a roll. Let's keep it up.
Let's do it.
We got a great show for everyone here today. We're talking about project types, and we're going to kind of focus on 3 specific commercial project types and just talk about the pros and cons. We'll start out with the logistics of each of these, because they all have kind of a different way to go about approaching the project and getting it done. So let's just dive in there and begin talking about these projects. Just so everyone knows what to anticipate, we're going to be talking about new developments or new construction, what we call white box build out, and then the third one's going to be renovations on an existing commercial structure. So let's dive in, Jon. Let's talk about that first one. The first one being new developments. This is typically new construction that's going to take place on a commercial real estate plot. It's either going to be raw land that needs to be grubbed and all that, or something that's already been grubbed and is ready for someone to start putting together the building envelope. And it usually is going to involve either like a standalone single large commercial building, or it could be a multiple unit structure where you have like mixed use of retail mixed with even residential in some circumstances. So that's what we're kind of talking about when we're talking about new construction in the commercial construction industry. So maybe you can go over some of the key logistics to a project like this, because it sounds like a big deal.
Yeah, no, definitely. Just thinking about our journey and where we're at with buildings and whatnot. As soon as I started the business 17 years ago, uh, I wanted to have a building right away, and I wanted the building that I wanted. So that meant I wanted to, build my own building.
Yeah.
Just so that I could get exactly what I wanted.
Sure.
It took me a couple of years to start to understand that might not be the best avenue. And, I think that's kind of what we want to break down in the show today. We want to talk about these different options.
Yeah.
And hopefully somebody will start to understand the best avenue for them to move forward.
Sure.
So, yeah, to your point, the new development or the new building, it's obviously, going to take the most work. It's going to take the most time. It's going to take the most money.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that it's everybody's want probably in the beginning. But, just like here at our company, we realized that after some time that might not be the best option for some of those reasons.
Yeah.
And we actually ended up going a different route. But that it is the best route in some instances. And, today we'll just talk about, what that avenue looks like and kind of shed some light on it. So in a new development, there a lot goes into that. There's lots of things that have to be done that don't necessarily you don't think about, if you're not doing this every day.
Exactly.
Right off the bat, you have to find a piece of property. You have to make sure that property is zoned correctly for, what you're trying to build it in.
Yeah.
You have to get your project through the planning commission. There's lots of other things that go into that as well. Lots of planning as far as drainage, site study or drainage studies, testing for for the actual ground.
Yeah.
And lots of little intricate pieces that go into putting this thing together. From there, you're hiring an architect to get some design work done. And then from there, obviously, getting everything submitted to the cities, make sure all these things that we talked about prior to are checking the boxes and make sure everything's up to code, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then from there, this thing finds an avenue for construction. And before you know it, way longer than you were thinking, you're building.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty intricate process that takes a lot of work. And like I say, there's times where it's the best option, but there's times where there's other options. So yeah, that's kind of what that process looks like. A lot of planning in the beginning. Find your property. A lot of planning with architects, engineers. Submittals to the parish, submittals to the fire marshal, submittal to the health department.
Yeah.
And once you kind of clear all those hoops, now you're ready to build it.
Yeah. So say like a project size under 10 million, like what would you say the timeline might range? What might be the range in the timeline for a project that size?
So I mean,
or under. Yeah,
obviously every project's going to have its own timeline, but I mean at a minimum on just your typical office building. I would think you're looking at anywhere from 9 to 12 months to get that project off the ground. Not necessarily off the ground. I mean, you could surely see it through to completion in that time frame. But I know oftentimes just trying to find the right piece of property can take some time. But assuming that you have a piece of property and you're wanting to do the new development, I mean, you're talking about a couple of months worth of planning commission, architects, design, bidding back and forth, negotiation, and then actual construction. Things can easily take a year to happen as far as time goes. And obviously, the bigger the project, I mean, you talked about a $10 million project.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about a fairly good sized structure at that point. Could easily take a couple of years. So it is quite extensive to get into this development, into this new construction phase.
Yeah. So let's talk about some pros and cons for this type of construction project. So some of the pros, you get full control over the design, right?
Right.
Is there a way? Is there a circumstance under which you might not have full control over the design, even though you're starting from scratch? Can you think anything like that, or?
I mean, there's if your property limits you a little bit, you may be
That's a good
restricted to the
point.
way the property is.
Yeah.
You know,
Setbacks and stuff like that.
yeah, even the parish or the city that you're building in, they may have some restrictions and stuff that
Like
you need
height
to consider.
restrictions.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
even just facade. I mean, I know there's some areas that we work in that want it to look a certain way.
Yeah.
They want your sign to be built a certain way. So things like that would need to be considered for sure.
Okay. So still though, you do have a lot of opportunity with design that you wouldn't have with an existing structure. And then the other thing is that typically this is going to be like a project for someone who's really invested long term. Like this isn't something you're just going to build and flip when you're talking commercial construction, like maybe a house. You might build a spec home, residential, and then obviously sell it. And but with commercial, it's typically a long term investment because you're going to be invested.
Yeah, and it's going to be a big investment. I mean, it's something you're going to be committed to for a long time.
Yeah. The other thing that I think is a pro that we talked about earlier was with new construction, you get to use the latest technologies, the latest, building systems and things like that. Is that something that, you see a benefit to? Like, is that a plus or is it just a difference?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you can utilize the latest and greatest, that's always good.
Yeah.
But there's definitely some positives, on the other side of things. And we're going to talk about that some as we get into the show. But I mean, yeah, it's nice to be able to use the latest and greatest stuff. But there's also some benefits to finding some existing older structures that maybe they don't have that, but they still make sense.
Yeah. So on the con side, so those are some of the pros. You get a lot of leeway with design. You get the opportunity to use the latest and greatest stuff, hopefully, and it's when you get done, you have a really solid, up to date, long term, investment.
And generally, you're getting exactly what you want in that situation.
Exactly.
You're getting exactly the product that you hope for.
That's right. So with on the con side, one thing is cost, right? I mean, would you say that it's significantly more expensive to do the new construction route?
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, a lot goes into it. We talked about all the design and the planning. A lot goes into that initial phase that can be very costly. That you wouldn't have, if you have an existing building or if you're doing like a build out.
Yeah. So that's definitely a con. And then the other thing that could be a challenge, like you touched on it, is timelines. Longer process to get permits and all that. You got to get through the planning commission and different things depending on the municipality you're dealing with. But another, prohibitive thing could be financing. The bigger the project, the more challenging getting financing is going to be.
Yeah.
And you're going to have a lot of what they call skin in the game, likely, and even with that, and we run into this, in some of our private work opportunities where we could tell that the owner was really, having to really go to bat for themselves in their project to get the financing that they needed and stuff. So it can be a challenge.
Yeah, it can be an obstacle for sure.
Because even the banks understand this is a big undertaking.
All right.
And of course, the bigger the undertaking, the more scrutiny it's going to receive. So that's where, having a reputable builder like Kelly Construction Group on your side is a feather in your hat if you want to do new construction.
Good little plug there.
That's right. Sorry about that. Had to get that in. All right. So I got an insider tip. And the insider tip is in quotations. It's it's not a big secret, but I have one for each of these three types of projects.
I was waiting for it myself.
And the insider tip on new construction is that these projects are really ideal for developers and investors. And so if you happen to be a developer or investor and you're looking to partner with a general contractor that understands, all the nuances involved in, new development, we certainly would love to talk to you. So definitely something we love to do. We love new construction. So let's talk about our second commercial construction type of project. And that one is one we're familiar with. I know that you've got a lot of reps in this particular area, and it's called the white box build out type project. So typically what we're talking about with a white box is that you're going to be finishing out a previously built shell, whether it's new construction or it could even be an existing building, but it's been gutted or whatever, and now you have these opportunities to do white box, and they can, the level of involvement with the GC can vary. It can go from just providing gyp on the walls, and maybe the HVAC system getting roughed in and all that, and maybe dropping a ceiling grid in there and some basic lighting to maybe finishing the thing all the way out per some franchise spec or something like that. So it could really vary on what's involved, but maybe you could tell us how the logistics are a little more, they vary from the new construction, obviously, and they're a little more simplified. Maybe you could go into that a little bit.
Yeah, so definitely not as intense when it comes to the design part of it. You're moving into a building that's already existing. It's already been through all the stuff that we talked about in the new development. It's already had all the drainage studies, all the utilities are there, everything's in place. So it takes a significant amount of time, off when you're trying to move into a building.
For sure.
And typically what this process looks like, and it can be pretty basic, and it can get a little more extensive.
Yeah.
If you're doing a simple office build out, I mean, I've seen it to where you could actually draw some hand sketches on the plan provided by the building owner, and basically go get you a permit almost, where you're dropping out this to the fire marshal, submitting to the parish that you're going to build a couple offices in this existing shell.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think the reason that's a possibility, the fire marshal's seen it already, the local building department's seen it already.
That's a good point. So they're familiar with the property.
Yeah, so it can be a little simpler, and then it can get a little more extensive. I mean, if you're doing a restaurant, or if you're doing some type of building that's going to require a bunch of people gathering or whatever, you may actually have to go the route where you're hiring an architect and getting a little more design than you would so in the instance that I talked to in the beginning. But it's still a much simpler process. The review's typically not nearly as long.
Yeah.
And this thing is in construction, a lot faster.
Yeah.
So just, I would say there is some design in the beginning. It's going to be less extensive than a new development.
Yeah.
And you're going to be under construction much sooner.
Yeah.
And from an owner's standpoint, a lot of the HVAC, the plumbing, all the electrical needs, all that's kind of accounted for already. And it's just not something that the owner has to think through. They basically just think through what they want their space to be.
Yeah.
And a lot less work, for an owner trying to move into a build out project, if you will.
Yeah. So this type of project is really ideal for a small business, somebody that needs a commercial space, but they don't need to own the building.
Right.
They just need the space, and they need it, developed in such a way that they can carry out what their specialty is, whatever it is they do for a product or service.
And it may even bridge the gap. I mean, maybe they do want a building or something down the road, but
yeah,
I mean, you can just bridge the gap with a project like this. You go get your business off the ground,
absolutely,
at a lower cost.
Yes.
And you don't have to have the headache of trying to maintenance a building and doing all those type things.
Yeah.
But you get your business started and you grow it to a point where maybe you move into one of the other developments that we're talking about, the new development, or even the renovation, or buying a building.
For sure. So turnaround time on something like this, what would you?
Yeah, I mean, this is
guesstimate.
Again, it's hard to put times on these things, but certainly a lot quicker deal here.
So weeks instead of months.
Yeah, I mean, I would think on a basic build out, you're probably looking at 4 weeks of design or whatever, and then probably another maybe that in the permitting office and fire marshal. So I mean, potentially you're looking at getting one of these projects underway in a couple of months, and
wow, that's
typically
nice.
a build out project 90 to 120 days. So you're looking at anywhere from let's call it 6 to 8 months to get one of these things done. So definitely a little faster timeline typically.
Nice. So talking about pros, the faster timeline would definitely be one. Cost is another one.
Yep.
If the scope is clearly defined, from the outset. So if there was a little bit of design consideration done, or maybe it is just prepping a white box that like a franchise is going to come in afterwards and dress that out, based on whatever their specs are. And we know a lot of franchises have, companies that go, all around the country installing the finishes to, brand a franchise or whatever. So, it could be a very limited scope for the GC getting in there. And then, I'm sorry. And then we're playing footsie down here in case you didn't see
goodness.
that.
Oh my goodness.
We'll cut that footsie thing out there. We're not really playing footsie; it's just happening. So, anyways,
some big size 15s you got, man.
Yeah, right. So, like you brought out, another pro is that it's a great entry point for a business.
Yeah.
But I mean, just the reduction in cost is huge, and it can really help a small business get off the ground. And like you say, down the road, if their business is booming and they're growing and being successful, they may be able to move into a nicer structure or one of their own, anyways.
Yeah,
down the road. So
that's actually a route that I kind of took, with buildings. Just young, needing a space, a lot easier to go to the bank for a couple $100,000.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to go for $1 million deal.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Definitely use that avenue, here and worked out really well.
For sure. So some of the cons. Let's talk about the cons. One is that you're going to be dealing with the landlord. So we know that misalignments can happen. Like you can sign a lease and then, next thing you know, you're finding out that the landlord may not be the easiest landlord to deal with or may not be responsive, and you're trying to get something done. So there could be a challenge there. We know that older existing shell spaces may hide some surprises.
Yeah.
So what are some of the areas that you would look at to kind of, make sure you weren't going to get surprised later, like once you got involved in a project like this and it was an older space? What would you look at?
I mean, in an older space, I would want to just make sure that the biggest thing that comes to mind is just heating and cooling. Like you want to make sure that system's up to par. You want to make sure that they've been maintaining it. You want to make sure that it's ready to go. You don't want to open up a business in an old shopping center or strip mall, whatever, to realize that your air is going to be going out every couple months.
Yeah.
That would be one of the biggest things that I would check out, right off the bat.
Sure.
But just thinking through the cons, and this may be one that you're going to mention, I'm not sure, but just one that hit my brain when you were talking about it is you are going to make an investment and you are going to put some money into this space that's ultimately not your space.
Yeah.
And it's an investment that you're not going to be able to keep and you're not going to be able to take with you.
Yes.
So that's a little bit of a con. But I guess the hope is that you're going to go open this business and it's going to produce at a great rate.
Yeah.
And then you'll be able to, kind of take that investment and be able to lose it, I guess.
Yeah, recoup that cost.
Yeah, you'll be able to surpass that cost in a short amount of time.
For sure. Get an ROI.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So, that's the one con that was really just kind of hitting my brain as you were going through the cons there. So I wanted to mention it.
That's a good one for sure.
But anyway.
And then the one that we had mentioned and had made a note on was how the budget can creep. If you're not defining it and then you're getting into an existing older structure, like I said, change orders could happen. Unforeseen things can pop up. and then the budget can start blowing up a little bit on those. So
Yeah, what I've seen, Joe, sorry to interrupt you.
no, that's
What
good.
I've seen on those is just not clear communication between the owner
Yes.
or the guy leasing the building and the owner. Maybe you're assuming that he's going to have ceilings and floors, provide that as a part of you leasing the building,
Yes.
and then at the end of the day, he's not. So I would think I would say that a lot of times the budget, becomes discrepant, if you will,
Yeah.
when there's not clear communication in the beginning. So
Yeah.
if you are moving into a space like that, you're going to want to make sure that you understand
In your
exactly
lease.
what the building owner is providing
Exactly.
as a part of the build out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, and that happens on the front end with your, with your CRE professional. Hopefully, they're representing you well, and you're getting all those things in the contract clarified.
Right.
Because it's easy to say, don't worry about this or don't worry about that. I'll take care of it later. But then all those little things add up to thousands and thousands of dollars.
Right.
And all of a sudden, now it's a problem.
Yes.
And now you're stressed, and now you're over budget, and
right.
It's not all sunshine and roses.
Yep.
So, anyways, great point. Glad you brought that out, because that could definitely, it probably happens more often than not.
Yeah, well, I know we've seen it quite a few times where, we get into a project and we start building, and the owners or the person that we're building for, the client, is saying, no, that's under the owner's scope.
Yeah.
And the owner's like, no, they're taking care of that.
Yeah.
So that's an area that we've seen the budget get a little out of whack on these build out type projects.
Yes, that's right. We definitely have seen that. All right. So insider tip number 2 on the old white box projects. These are perfect for tenant improvement projects. And they're also great for CRE professionals and brokers that want to prep a space to, speed up leasing, to make it lease ready. So, you have a general contractor come in and go ahead and get some clean gyp up, make sure that you got stub outs for your restrooms, everything's up to date, everything's up to code, and really make it almost on the inside like a new build, to where your potential lease clients can come in, see the space, and really visualize getting their space, built out in there. So you don't have to necessarily wait to have the space leased to do a white box build out. You can do this as a property manager, or just as an investor developer that just wants to prep a space out, instead of waiting until you start showing it to a client, because it may not show as well, and you may actually miss out on some great client opportunities because of the state of the building not being cleaned up, so to speak, and allowing that person to visualize what it's going to look like with their stuff in there. Because let's face it, just because someone's a business owner doesn't mean they're a builder, and they can't necessarily visualize the space being done.
Right.
But by having it white boxed out and cleaned up, definitely going to show better, and definitely going to have a higher rate of leasability or occupancy, whatever you want to call it. So I would say that's definitely an insider tip for CRE professionals on that. All right, well, we're moving into our third area, and that's going to be renovations on existing commercial construction buildings. So this can mean something as as little as like what you were talking about earlier, going into an existing commercial building and throwing up a few offices inside, some partitions, or it could be like a complete redo. It could be an exterior update. It could get really extensive and stuff like that. So kind of walk us through the logistics, and maybe and I'm sure you're going to do this just naturally because there's going to be some comparisons, but maybe show how compare this to what it would be like new construction, and kind of show the difference of the two options there.
Yeah. So I mean, when I'm thinking about this avenue, if you will, you're buying an existing building that's been there for some time.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's a building that you've owned for some time and operated out of, and you just need to do a few additions or some renovations to make it, to grow it with you.
Yeah.
But either way, this is another great option. The design, the planning, all the permitting and that kind of stuff, typically way easier in this situation, not nearly as extensive. To your point, a lot of times if you're buying an existing building, you're making a few simple offices inside, you're updating the front.
Yeah.
You're maybe doing some repairs in the parking lot to make it more appealing. But
Signage.
yeah, you're getting a structure that's pretty much ready to go,
Yeah.
and you're just updating it. Great, great option for a lot of companies, and to me, it's kind of middle of the market. It's not as cheap as your build out would be,
Yeah.
but then it's not nearly as expensive as a full development.
Yeah.
And I think this option is good in a lot of ways too. Typically very fast turnaround. I mean, you're able to secure a building fairly quickly. Renovations. I know I'm getting to your pros and cons a little bit.
That's all right.
Just
Have at it.
just thinking about the logistic side of it.
Yeah.
It's something that you buy and it's ready. You go do your construction really fairly quick.
Yeah.
And then you're up and at it.
So you're not breaking that ground and
right
stirring up that whole mess.
Yes, and then the same thing applies with the addition, right? I mean, you have a business that's operating well, you're growing. If you have the property, it's very easy just to do an addition there.
Yeah.
And keep rolling. And there's few rules around that. That if it's not a certain if it doesn't go over a certain value, you kind of grandfathered in on a lot of the same stuff that you already have with your existing building.
Yeah.
So sometimes it just makes sense to do an addition to your building. But like I say, it's definitely less intense in the design. It's ready to go a lot quicker.
Yeah.
And a lot of times a great option.
Sounds like you've had a little experience with this. You want to elaborate?
Yeah, no. So we've kind of been through a couple of these. Like I said, new development was what I wanted starting way back. But I end up doing a little build out project where we got us we came into a white box, built a few offices, and had a warehouse. Done that for a number of years.
Yeah.
Then we actually leased another space that was more of an office space as we begin to grow a little bit. And in the last few years, we actually bought an existing building and were able to do actually a little bit of both. We renovated the existing building, we did an addition to it, and it was a very fast process. I mean, we were able to buy the building. We actually didn't hire an architect. We did all the design here in house, and we were able to get that submitted to the fire marshal and permitting office and get it built. And it was a quick turnaround for us. And I wouldn't say that we got exactly what we want, but we got really close to what we want.
Yeah,
and very happy in our space.
Yeah,
so
functional and
more.
It's really beyond functional. It's nice.
Yeah, actually, yeah. So we've done some of this stuff and kind of went through it, and it's fun to talk about. Honestly, it's fun getting to building, and there's obviously avenues to do it. So
nice to see a plan come together, huh?
Exactly. Yes.
All right. So talking about renovating an existing commercial building, you talked about a lot of the pros. Often it's more cost effective. Sometimes existing structures, depending on how extensive the remodel, you can get what they call green credits for making it more efficient. If you're updating mechanical systems, you might get some sort of credits for that, tax credits. The other thing about it is that it may help renew or rejuvenate a particular part of town where you live,
right?
Something like that. You're investing back into the community. Kind of when you update a building, if it's a part of the community, you're updating the community,
right?
In that little footprint. So that can be huge and a benefit as well. Some of the cons, a lot of unforeseen conditions. Like maybe you could tell us a little bit about some of the unforeseen conditions you run into with renos in old buildings. Like I'm thinking of one right now. It starts with an A. It just shows up everywhere. It seems like an old building.
Yeah. I'll let you talk about that one.
Okay.
One thing that this is fairly simple, but in our one of our projects, drainage was a big deal. Like the building was purchased. You don't have a real history of what the drainage there was because you haven't been there.
Sure.
But bought a building and got ready to get everything going. Realized that the drainage wasn't great, and the parish was like, "Okay, that's your baby. You got to get it fixed." So it was up to us to go in and kind of redo all this drainage that was bad. That was really there was no way that we really would have knew that condition existed.
Wow,
You know,
that's
and
tough.
fortunately for us, it wasn't super expensive. I mean, it was more expensive than we wanted, right? Because we didn't figure to repair any of that.
Yeah,
But
unforeseen costs.
something like that is something that you'd certainly want to look out for, and could be a con, if you're buying an existing space.
Yes. So yeah, in this region for sure, drainage is huge.
Yeah.
The other thing, and it kind of goes hand in hand with your drainage thing, is like mold. Hidden mold could be a problem. You might get into a building and start improving it,
Yeah.
and discover a bunch of mold in a commercial building. And
Right.
next thing you know, you need to abate that. And
Yeah.
and along with abating, the A word I was thinking of was asbestos.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you see a lot of that. You see a lot of that in older buildings around here.
Yeah.
Definitely. I have another story on that one. Also, bought a structure
Huh.
some years back, and to realize real soon that it needed about $12,000 worth of abatement.
Wow.
That wasn't
That's a
planned
lot.
for in the budget.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the real thing too. You definitely got to look out for that.
For sure.
Let that be front of mind for sure
Yeah.
when buying an old structure.
Sure. So those are just some of the cons. Like you can run into some stuff with these older buildings, but you can also find the gems that give you a great opportunity to get into a nice building and just make it something more than what it was currently. So
Yeah, I think it's a good option, honestly. I mean, I think a lot of times people don't want to think about buying an old building or an existing building, but for the pros that we talked about, I mean, yeah, the cons. To me, with a little bit of homework, you can eliminate some of those cons.
Yeah.
But the pros go a long way. I mean, it's a fast turnaround, more
Yeah.
cost effective,
Yeah.
and you truly can make it what you want a lot of times.
Yeah.
So I would say consider that option for sure before you go, thinking you need to build something new.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100% on that one, and we've definitely experienced that here with this structure, and it's serving us well, and it's a great place to come to work, and and it wasn't nothing like this when you
Yeah, it looks
first
totally different.
purchased the property. So
It does look totally different, and we
Yeah,
did it for very minimum cost.
yeah, yeah. There is a couple other cons I just wanted to mention, or one in particular, and that is depending on the level of upgrades, it may trigger certain code upgrades that you have to, be able to meet, like
Right.
ADA, for example. And this is just if someone's out there listening that is considering doing this, just be aware you're going to have to make the building ADA compliant. Probably there may be fire code, requirements that maybe didn't exist before,
Right.
but because of the level of the upgrade now, they're going to enforce those. And then egress, you're going to have to make sure that the building could be accessed and egressed safely, and
Right.
so that may require installing a door in a wall where there wasn't ever a door, something like that. So anyways, just some things to think about, that each of those three items could amount to a few $1,000s, and so it's something that you definitely want to consider, because combined it's that would be a bump to your budget. So
Yeah.
but other than that, that's great. The insider tip on this is that, and you kind of touched on it, is that it's a great opportunity for investors that want to be able to get an ROI on your investment. You can buy an existing structure, update it, upgrade it, or if you already own one, you can get it upgraded and updated for much less than it would cost to ever leave that location and go build a completely brand new project. So there's certainly you know reasons why all three of these project types would be used. There's definitely an area for those who are investing in real estate long term. They have you may have money that you need to get into an investment like a new
Right.
construction development, and it may just be one of those things where you're managing your portfolio, and it's something that's really is the right fit for what you're doing financially.
And two, just as as opposed to what we talked about a while ago, you're actually investing in an asset that you own. So I mean, you're gonna keep the money that you're putting into it, but it's actually, you're going to grow it really.
Yeah, that's right. And and you might call that, you might consider that like a legacy type investment. It may be something that your kids are really going to benefit from down the road. So there's a place for that. The white box build out we're familiar with. We've done a ton of those in the past, and they're a great option for small business owners to be able to get into a space and get up and running and start developing your business. And then the third one, of course, renovating existing spaces. We've talked about that at great length. It's a great option. We love this space that we renovated and made a great office for us. So anyways, call to action. This is your opportunity to, if you fall into one of these three categories and you think you might be looking to get involved in one of these types of projects, reach out to us here at Kelly Construction Group. We definitely are well versed in all three of these and would love to work with you. And we're a very collaborative company. We like to, put the team together. We like to work with the design team up front so that we can budget a job as it's being designed. Would save you a ton of money, and it also saves time for everybody. So you can go to our website, kellyconstructiongroup.com, and submit a form, do a form submittal, and set up an appointment that way. You could actually call us here at the office. The number is 225-243-4949. I'll put that in the show notes. And you could even email me directly, Joe at kellyconstructiongroup.com, and I can get that to the right people, and they would definitely get right back to you and find out about your proposed project. So hope you enjoyed the show today. Anything you want to leave the folks with?
No, man, just go out there and find a building. Get you a building or get you a white box or whatever it is. Just call us and
That's right.
we'll help you put a bow on it.
That's right. What do you like to say? Let's go when we get it done. So thanks for watching today, and make sure you check back in a week for another episode of the K-Cup. Later.
All right.
Cut.